Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today will be a card review of the Mutant Genesis expansion. Generally speaking, I liked the player cards for the Sinister Motives cycle quite a lot. There were a lot of good cards there, a lot of good heroes relative to the previous cycles. So with Mutant Genesis, we're getting away from the Web Warrior cycle and into the X-Men cycle. So let's take a look at the Mutant Genesis player cards. First up, we got Colossus. Peter Rasputin is his alter ego. He has 4 recovery. Set up, search your deck for a copy of Organic Steel and add it to your hand. Response, after you change to this form, shuffle a Colossus card from your discard pile into your deck. It's not the same ability that Miles Morales has. Think so. He has hand size 6, hit points 14, so we'll have to take a look at Organic Steel. Recovery 4 is a little bit above average, but nothing too crazy. Colossus, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense. Colossus can have 1 additional tough status card. Interesting. After you change to this form, give Colossus a tough status card. Hand size 4, hit points 14. Well, first impressions, he's a little bit understated. 6 is the standard. Anything less than that requires compensation in terms of the number of resources that the hero can generate, which we don't see from his hero ability, but we'll take a look at his cards. 1 additional tough status card is interesting. After you change to this form, give Colossus a tough status card. We don't necessarily like that for solo play because we don't want to be changing to alter ego forms that much. We don't mind it with Spider-Ham because of his 5 recovery, his ability to generate resources while in alter ego form by using his recovery. Colossus doesn't generate resources in alter ego and he heals for only 4, so we're not going to want to switch to alter ego that much. If we have to in order to generate tough status cards, then we're not looking at a hero that will be very good in solo play. And in addition, the hand size of 4 is a huge red flag because resource generation is what separates one hero from another in terms of their power level for the most part, though with heroes that have virtually the same level of resource generation, then other factors come into play. But hand size 4 is a huge limitation. We haven't seen a hero overcome that to get to the S tier or even really the A tier or B tier. Pretty much every hand size 4 hero up to this point has been pretty bad. And so, well, Colossus will have a lot to overcome with his hero cards. Basically, we're looking for reliable resource generation to offset that hand size of 4. His hero-specific ally is Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde. 3-cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons in play. Okay, but she's understated for her cost, so the reason for that is her versatility, and as I've said many times before in card reviews, versatility that comes at the expense of power is not good in solo play, though it can be acceptable in multiplayer sometimes to fill in holes in the team comp or to overcome specific challenges. With the hand size of 4 of Colossus, well, more with the response of gaining a benefit from switching between forms, and with Shadowcat having versatility over power, it seems like what we're looking at here is a more multiplayer focused hero than a solo hero, but we'll have to see the rest of his cards to be sure. His alter ego support is Peter's Studio. 1-cost support, exhaust Peter's Studio, discard cards from your deck until you discard a Colossus card, add that card to your hand. I would much prefer a alter ego action of just drawing a card, but I don't expect that this will be too bad. In fact, it's good, but it is an alter ego action, and we only want to use that maybe once per game, twice per game. So alter ego supports usually don't get played in solo. They usually get thrown away for resources. This does cost only 1, so it'll get played more often than the average alter ego support card. But not that much. Usually this will get thrown away to pay for other things. Iron Will, 2 cost upgrade. Colossus gets +1 thwart. Okay. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, draw 1 card. Okay. Can you do that every round? And if you could do that, do we get more than 1 Iron Will? No, just 1. If you could do that every round, that would bring Colossus up to 5 hand size, which is the standard for a hero. That wouldn't make him good, it would just make him playable. And in addition, Iron Will is only 1 card in a 40 card deck and may take a full cycle through the deck before you get it. So it's nice that this compensates. This basically just brings Colossus to the level of any other hero. The standard for hero stats is 6, and the standard for hero hand size is 5. So this card would bring Colossus up to 6 stats and 5 hand size, but only when a tough status card is discarded. It's not limited to once per round. You don't have to exhaust this, so that's good. So potentially you could, since Colossus can have 2 tough status cards, you could potentially get him up to 6 sometimes. Though I don't expect that would be easy since you only have 1 basic action in order to defend an attack with, but you could also just face tank damage and use the toughness for that. So when you have 2 tough status cards, you'll be able to reliably discard them both in the same round, I think, and draw 2 cards. But the caveat of needing to set this up first to compensate for Colossus's weaknesses, that is significant, because in solo on higher difficulties you need to get ramped up quickly, and you need to be able, a hero needs to be able to take on higher difficulties in order to consider him an S tier hero. Titanium Muscles, 2 cost upgrade. Colossus gets +1 attack. Exhaust this card. Generate a strength resource for each tough status card on Colossus. Okay, so you have 1 card that wants to discard the tough status cards to gain a benefit, and 1 card that wants to have tough status cards on Colossus to gain a benefit. So you have kind of reverse synergy, but really what this says is that you want to be cycling out tough status cards pretty often. You want to be generating them and then getting rid of them. Every turn, really, is what you want for this hero. And we'll see what ways he has to do that. Organic Steel, 2 cost upgrade. That's the card we get in this setup, right? Yep, Organic Steel. It's a 2 cost upgrade, uses 2 steel counters. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, exhaust this card and remove 1 steel counter from it. Give Colossus a tough status card. Okay, so I just mentioned that we want to be cycling tough status cards in and out every turn, and this allows you to do that, and you start with it in hand, so that's good. Though I would greatly prefer to start with Iron Will in hand, but anyway, this is a what kind of value do we get for the 2 cost? We get pretty good value for the 2 cost, I would say. Colossus starts with a tough status counter on him just from flipping to hero form. So then you play Organic Steel turn 1, and you get a guarantee of 2 more toughness cards. That's good. It's necessary for the hero to function, and you get good value for it, so I like it. Colossus clearly a very defensive-oriented character, so you get 2 copies of Organic Steel. Made of Rage, 0 cost event. When you make a basic attack, discard a tough status card from your hero. You get +6 attack for that attack, and it gains overkill. Okay, so this gives a way to convert a tough status card into offense. I value a tough status card at about 4 attack, so you lose 4 attack, but you get 6 for a net gain of like 2. This card is fine. It's not exceptional, but it's fine. It, yeah, provides some offense, but nothing overpowering or even that strong, I would say. I would consider this basically, all other things being equal, basically equivalent to like a 0 cost 2 damage event from aggression or something like that. We get 2 of those. Steel Fist, deal 5 damage to an enemy. You may discard a tough status card from your hero to stun and confuse that enemy. So basically, I mean, this is pretty exceptional. This is really strong. 5 damage. You lose a tough, but you get a stun and confuse. That's good. I like it. It's very strong. A very strong event, and that comes with the caveat that strong events do not match strong resource generators, and we haven't seen that from Colossus. We've only seen one resource generator, and it's just one card in a 40 card deck, and it only brings him up to the level of other heroes who start with 5 cards in hand by default. So we haven't seen anything to overcome his limitation of hand size 4 yet. But Steel Fist is a very strong event, an exceptionally strong event. And we get 3 of those. Okay, that's good. Bulletproof Protector. 0 cost event. Discard a tough status card from your hero. Choose. Give your hero 2 tough status cards. Or ready your hero. I'd imagine most of the time you're going to want to give your hero 2 tough status cards. That's exceptional value again. These last 2 events, very, very strong as far as events go. So that's going to separate him from other 4 hand size heroes at least. He'll be better than probably like Hulk or Thor or She-Hulk, SPDR. I think Colossus looks stronger than those heroes based on his exceptional events. But he's not really getting to the level of the 5 hand size heroes. Armor Up, 0 cost event. When the villain activates, change to hero form. Alter Ego Interrupt. Okay, so this allows you to, we've seen this increasingly in the last cycle, ways to get to your alter ego and use it which don't leave you super vulnerable in solo play or otherwise. So this allows you to switch to alter ego, heal, and then when the villain activates, you interrupt. So at the beginning of the activation, you change to hero form and get a toughness, and then you can defend against the attack. This is good. I like it. Good value for that event. And that's it for Colossus. Well, if he had hand size 5, I would love this hero. Defensive focused heroes are very good in solo play, but we need them to be able to generate resources, and Colossus cannot do that reliably. Hand size 4 is a huge handicap, and the way that he has to overcome it, Iron Will, his only way to generate resources in the whole deck, it's just 1 card in 40 cards, and isn't going to be reliable until you've cycled through the deck a full time, unless you get lucky and get it early. And even if you get lucky and get it early, it only brings him up to the level, only brings him up to the standard, the average. So we're not looking at a very strong hero, but we're looking at a hero that is going to be stronger than the other 4 hand size heroes. That's not a high standard, but yeah, unfortunate. If he had 5 hand size, I'd probably love this hero. If he had 5 hand size and then he got up to 6 with his Iron Will, I think that would be a great hero. But that isn't the case. So what we're looking at isn't a very strong hero, unfortunately. Let's take a look at the aspect cards that come with his pre-constructed deck. We got Nightcrawler. 3 cost ally, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 health. When an X-Men character would take any amount of damage from an enemy attack, spend a lightning resource and return Nightcrawler to your hand to prevent all of that damage. That's not very strong because it's very expensive. So you could pay 3, then you get 2 thwart or 2 attack, and then you spend an additional resource, return Nightcrawler, and prevent the damage. So you spent 4 resources, and you've gotten pretty inefficient value, really. And yeah, you can you can replay Nightcrawler, but as I've said in the past, cards that you replay over and over for mediocre value each time, I don't really like and don't play. So I don't think Nightcrawler is very strong. Polaris, 3-cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack. After Polaris enters play, give an X-Men character a tough status card. Okay, this is actually a very strong ally. You get 4 attack, a chump block, and you get a tough status card for an X-Men character. So assuming you're playing a X-Men hero, this is very strong. Very strong ally for the protection aspect. I like it. Yeah, very good ally. Protective training, 1 cost upgrade attached to an X-Men ally, max 1 training upgrade per ally. Attached ally gets +3 hit points, so you could get like 6 more attack from this. That's great value. This may be the first ally upgrade that I've ever liked. For an X-Men ally, this upgrade is actually very strong, and I would definitely play it in a X-Men protection deck. +3 hit points for 1, yeah, because that gives you 6 thwart or 6 attack over 3 turns, and for 1 cost, that's great. That's exceptional. Very good value. Nice to see an actual good upgrade. Powerful Punch, 2-cost event. When an enemy initiates an attack, deal 4 damage to that enemy. So it's very inefficient, but you can use it to prevent an attack from an enemy. So, but I mean, why would you ever play this over an event that would deal 5 damage, but just on your turn? Like, the only situation where this would actually be good is if an enemy comes out, a minion comes to the board, and then attacks in the same round before you've had a chance to do anything about it. Otherwise, this ends up just being a very inefficient event. So it seems versatile at first glance. I don't think it is actually versatile. I think its best case scenario is very rare. You'd need like a 2 encounter card situation where 1 minion comes out and then you get the encounter card that has the boss and the minion's attack, and then you could use this to prevent the attack by killing the enemy, and then it would be quite good. But that's going to be rare. Most of the time this is just going to be an inefficient attack event, basically. Which gives you a little bit of versatility in when you use it, but at the expense of power. Bait and Switch, 1-cost event. The villain attacks you, remove 4 threat from the main scheme. That's not good for its cost. Villain attacking you. The only, the villain attacks you card that I've really liked is from Spider-Ham, which lets you draw 3 cards. That's about the level of value that we're looking for, so for this card to be good, I'd need it to do something like, and that card is free. For this card to be good, I'd need it to do something like, I don't know, remove 10 threat or something like that from schemes across the board. That card I would play. This card, no, this is way too little value for its cost. Even if it was free, I don't think I would play it. Perseverance, 1-cost event. After you change form, give your hero a tough status card. It's adequate value for what it does. The issue is that we don't really want to be switching between forms in solo play. So, yeah, this will probably sit in the hand a lot, not get played. But the times when you do use it, it provides adequate value. Nothing special, but adequate. Seems specifically built for Colossus, who makes good use of the tough status cards, but even in Colossus, I don't think I would play this because I just don't want to be in alter ego form that much. Mutant Protectors. Play only if your identity has the X-Men trait, 1-cost event. When an enemy attacks, put an X-Men ally into play from your hand, exhaust it, and declare it the defender for this attack. That's only really good. So the upside is that you get a greatly reduced cost ally. So which allies would that be good with? Allies where not a lot of their value comes from their attack or their thwarting, but the value comes from their in-play abilities. Like when you put this ally into play, it does X thing. So you get this, you're paying one card from hand for your resource. One, you're paying this card itself, you're losing this card, and then you're also losing an X-Men ally. So that's 3 cards from hand that you're losing. And then you get 1 defense. So from the in-play ability of the ally that comes into play, you would need like... You'd need at least 2 in value from the in-play ability. We haven't seen many X-Men allies yet. Ones that we have seen. So would this be good with Polaris? Yes. It would be good with Polaris. To basically a cost of 3, but you get a block, and then you get a tough status card. Good with Polaris. Not good with Nightcrawler. Yeah, not good with Nightcrawler, but good with Polaris. We'll have to see the other X-Men from this cycle, but my feeling is there probably will be enough X-Men that can take good advantage of this to play it. Probably would play it. It would need testing to be sure. It may be that its cost is higher than I think, but I think this is pretty good. If you have a number of X-Men allies who do something fairly strong when they enter play. Defensive Energy, max 2 per deck. When you spend this card to play a defense event, draw 1 card. That's a great card. Auto include in any defense deck, including the ones I've been running for Ghost Spider, especially Ghost Spider. This is probably best in Ghost Spider of the heroes that I've seen so far, but I'd include it in any protection deck because the defense events are pretty good and they synergize well with Unflappable, Hard to Ignore, Flow Like Water, and this card synergizes well with those, so this is a great addition to the protection aspect. And we're into the basic cards. Professor X, Charles Xavier, 3-cost ally, 3 thwart, 0 attack, 3 health. After Professor X enters play, choose 1, confuse the villain, stun a minion, or ready an X-Men character. At the end of the round, if Professor X is still in play, discard him. You get good value for this ally, almost exceptional, so I'd definitely include him in an X-Men deck. Same as you would Nick Fury. I think it's, well, you actually get a little bit more value for Professor X than Nick Fury, I think. No, actually it's almost equivalent. Now that I think about it, I would say Professor X pretty much equivalent to Nick Fury, who's a very good ally and gets included in a lot of decks. So I like this ally for X-Men deck. He's strong. The X-Jet, 3-cost support, exhaust the X-Jet, generate a wild resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. That's overcosted for a resource generator. We'd prefer it at 2. And the reason it's overcosted, I think, is because of its versatility, because you can generate a resource for another player, a multiplayer focused card, but a card that has a benefit for multiplayer teams at the expense of cost we really don't like for solo. So I don't think that I would ever really run this in solo. It costs too much. Shadow and Steel, 2-cost event that team up for Colossus and Shadowcat. When an enemy attacks, prevent all damage from that attack and deal 4 damage to the attacking enemy. It's good value if you're running Colossus and Shadowcat. For heroes, team-ups are nearly impossible to run in a solo game though. But it is good value for a multiplayer game. Energy, Genius, and Strength we've seen before. Is that it for the Colossus side? It is. So let's move on to Kitty Pryde Shadowcat. She has recovery 3. Yeah, overall for Colossus, he's on the weaker side just because of his hand size of 4, because he doesn't have any way to compensate for that except for 1 card in his 40 card deck. Kitty Pryde, 3-cost recovery, put your mass form upgrade into play, solid side face up. Action, flip your mass form upgrade once per round. Hand size 6, hit points 9. So we don't know what the mass form upgrade does yet. We'll take a look in just a sec. Shadowcat, 2/2/2, that's the standard, that's great. While you're in phased mass form, Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords. I should say that 2/2/2 is the standard for like a S tier hero. We're looking for our S tier heroes to have 6 stats. If they don't, they need compensation for it. While you're in phased mass form, Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons in play, so that is a versatility power. Versatility hero power that doesn't provide any actual power for the hero or any resource generation, but it'll allow you to overcome specific challenges in specific situations. And how useful is that? It's not that often that I really want to ignore guard or patrol or crisis, because we like to keep the board clear in solo and probably multiplayer as much as possible. So this could be useful in an emergency, but probably won't be useful that often. Solid, it's an upgrade, mass form. Okay, so this is her mass form that gets put into play and can be flipped in alter ego. You come into play with it solid side face up. It's permanent. Exhaust this card, generate a strength resource for an attack or defense event. Okay, that's great. She comes with a built-in resource generator. After you attack or defend in solid mass form, flip this card. Okay. So you don't have to flip to alter ego to flip it. That's great too. Phased. While Shadowcat is defending, she cannot take damage. Oh, that's very strong. So she generates a resource every other round, and every other round she can't take damage. I like it so far. I like this hero. We'll see what else she's got in terms of resource generation, but this is a well above average hero, I would say, just based on her hero form alone. So this is a strong ability. Phased and solid, very strong. I like it. Probably want to play her in protection in solo, so we can take advantage of this resource generation. Leadership and protection are the 2 aspects that work in solo right now for difficult quests. Justice and aggression aren't really anything. And the reason is because both justice and aggression kind of struggle to generate any resources. Leadership generates a lot of resources through virtue of its strong card draw from allies, in particular White Tiger, Maria Hill, Kalu. They all generate cards, additional resources for you. And protection does it through the use of Unflappable. Justice has Skilled Investigator, but that doesn't go off that often. Unflappable can go off nearly every round. And Aggression has Bring It On, but that's an event, not a permanent effect, so it doesn't go off every round. It also has Hall of Heroes, but again, that doesn't go off every round. It takes a while to build up and then pay off, and you have to flip to alter ego to do it. So protection and leadership are where it's at for solo play right now. And this card specifically takes advantage of protection, but would be pretty bad with leadership, so we'll want to play her with protection. Lockheed is the hero-specific ally for Shadowcat. 2-cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health. After Lockheed enters play, if you're in solid form, deal 2 damage to an enemy. Phased form, remove 2 threat from a scheme. Okay, it's above average value for an ally, but a little bit below average ally for a hero-specific ally, who tend to be better on average. Not terrible though, very playable, and in particular 2-cost allies help early in the game to defend against boss aggression. So Lockheed probably gets played a lot of the time, even though it's maybe a little bit less than what we'd like from a hero-specific ally. Kitty's Room is her alter ego support card. 1 cost, exhaust Kitty's Room. If you are in solid form, heal 2 damage. Phased form, draw 1 card. That's a very good alter ego support card, but won't get used a lot because, as I said with Colossus's alter ego support card, we just don't want to be in alter ego that much in solo play. Acute Control, 1 cost upgrade. Hero response after you ignore the guard or patrol keyword on a minion. Exhaust Acute Control. Deal 2 damage to that minion. Okay, so we're actually being encouraged to ignore guard or patrol, and this is a repeatable upgrade. You only really need to make use of it twice to make it good, and it costs only 1. This is a very good upgrade. Provides a lot of power for Shadowcat, so we're looking at built-in resource generation every other turn, defense every other turn, pretty good damage so she can ramp up. This hero definitely looks well above average. Intangible Interference, 1 cost upgrade after you ignore the crisis icon on a scheme. Exhaust Intangible Interference, remove 2 threat from that scheme. The crisis icon probably happens a little bit less often than the guard or the patrol keyword. Once again, you'd have to make use of it probably at least twice in order for it to be good. I don't know if that's going to happen in every scenario. It may not even happen once per scenario. Probably it does. This would need play testing to really see how it does, along with Acute Control, but I do think that this hero is pretty good. Is she going to be S tier? She's certainly not going to challenge Spider-Ham for best hero in the game. I would say maybe in the Ant-Man range, just eyeballing it, but we'll see. Phased and Confused. 3 cost upgrade. When attached enemy would attack, discard this card. Instead, then confuse that enemy. So it's similar to Webbed Up, but you get a confuse instead of a stun, and it costs 1 less. That's good. That's good value for this card. Nothing exceptional, but it's definitely good value. So I like her card so far, though I would like it more if there's any additional resource generation. Shadowcat Surprise, 2 cost event, deal 3 damage to an enemy. Ready your hero. That one's a little bit lackluster in terms of the value. Readying the hero is typically valued at like 2. And so 5 damage for 2 cost, that's very similar to like an aggression event. And we would like our hero-specific events to be stronger than the aggression events, or the any aspect events ideally. So probably 4 damage and readying your hero would be good value, but this is a little bit overcosted for the value unless you have a way to buff your hero's stats, in which case it's good. And maybe that's why this is understated, to account for like a repurposed build or something like that. Phase Strike deals 6 damage. If you're in phased mass form, you may discard an attachment with the text Hero Action or Hero Response. Well, if you're not discarding an attachment, this is pretty expensive for what it does. If you are discarding an attachment, those attachments typically cost 2 or 3 resources to discard, so that's very, very good. That's exceptional value if you're discarding an attachment with this card. I don't think that will happen as often as you might think, though it depends on the scenario. There are scenarios where the boss is really designed to ramp up hard with attachments, like Loki comes to mind, Ronin. So if Shadowcat is fighting against one of those enemies, this is likely to be exceptional value pretty often. Otherwise, you probably don't want to pay 3 just to deal 6 damage. There will be times that you do, but generally this will probably only get played if you're discarding an attachment as well. And when doing that, this is very, very good. And when not doing it, it's pretty mediocre. Airwalk, 1 cost event, remove 2 threat from a scheme, 4 threat instead if you're in phased form. 1 cost for 2 threat removal is not good. 1 cost for 4 threat removal is sufficient. So only gonna want to use this when in phased form. But when you are in phased form, it's good. It's good value. And Quick Shift, 0 cost event. When an enemy attacks, if you are in solid form, change to phased form. Phased form, draw 2 cards. Probably almost always going to want to use it to draw 2 cards unless it's an emergency. If you use it to draw 2 cards, this is very good. How many of these do we get? 2? Okay, so we get another way to generate resources, though it is an event and not an upgrade. So we've got the solid form and we've got the event, which draws cards. Quick Shift for generating resources. That's very solid. I like this hero a lot. I'm looking forward to trying her out. I do expect her to be very good. Possibly as good as like Captain America or something like that. Maybe even better. Don't think she's going to challenge Spider-Ham. I don't really think she's going to challenge Ghost Spider. I wouldn't be like astonished if she was that good, but I do think this hero is quite good. But though we'll need to play test to know for sure, because there's some kind of unique concepts here based around, well, it really depends on how often you need to ignore guard or patrol, how often you need to ignore crisis. But anyway, let's take a look at the cards that come with Shadowcat for her pre-constructed deck. Aggression cards, that's a little surprising. I guess Colossus is already protection. We got Wolverine. 4 cost ally, 1 thwart, 3 attack. Wolverine's attacks gain piercing. After your turn begins, heal 1 damage from Wolverine. So you can attack for 3, then heal. Attack for 3, then heal. You can't attack for 3 again because you will die, so you thwart for 1. So you get 3, 6, 7, and then a block. He's okay. Well, actually, I take that back, because he can just stay on the table, right? After your turn begins, heal 1 damage from Wolverine. It's not like you're forced to use him every time, so he could just take a break and stay on the table indefinitely, which would make him one of, if not the best aggression ally. Because he can deal 3 damage when he needs to heal for a couple of turns. He can just stay there, heal, and then continue attacking. Yeah. This is basically unlimited attacks with occasionally, but just not every turn. Occasionally he'll need to take a turn or 2 to recover, but yeah, this ally is really, really strong. Auto included in every aggression deck. It has no specific X-Men requirements. You don't have to be playing an X-Men hero or any other X-Men to take advantage of him. So very, very good ally. Magic. 3 cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack. After you play magic from your hand, Spend a science resource, choose a non-elite minion engaged with an X-Men hero, and shuffle that minion into the encounter deck. That's good. It's a good ability. There are some really nasty non-elite minions in some scenarios where this would be very, very good. I like this hero, or this ally. For a X-Men hero deck, it's not good outside of X-Men because for the stats alone it's very lackluster value. But in an X-Men deck, this is very, very strong. I would absolutely include it if I was playing aggression. Attack training, 1 cost upgrade attached to an X-Men ally. Max 1 training upgrade per ally. Attached ally gets +1 attack and +2 hit points. So you get like 6 damage for this upgrade. Yeah, these training upgrades look very good. Much improved over previous upgrades. This one gives good value. I like it. Especially good on Wolverine. On Wolverine, this is going to be incredible. Because you get +1 attack like for the rest on Wolverine for the rest of the game because he's going to hang around. I like that. Yeah, this is very good. Gonna run this in every aggression deck with X-Men allies for sure. Gatekeeper, 0 cost upgrade. Attached to a minion. Attached minion gets +2 hit points and gains patrol. When attached minion is defeated, remove 2 threat from the main scheme. So you have to use 2 damage, which is basically like 1 consequential damage. You reduce the efficiency of one of your allies, or you use a basic attack from your hero. I think this is pretty lackluster value. And I mean, it gives you the ability to remove threat out of the aggression scheme, which is why it's lackluster when they do these things. These cards that are like off their role. When we have an attack card in protection or a thwart card in aggression, it always tends to be inefficient because they're penalizing you for playing off aspect. I never really like to run those cards. Yes, versatility is nice, but not at the expense of power, in my opinion, so I probably won't play Gatekeeper, even on the occasions when I do play aggression. Team Strike, 1 cost event, play only if your identity has the X-Men trait. Exhaust your hero and any number of X-Men allies. Deal X damage among enemies in play, where X is the total attack of the characters you exhausted this way. So this gives you a use for your allies who are maxed out in their consequential damage, and they can't take any more consequential damage or they'll die, and they were just going to sit there waiting for a boss attack. This gives you a use for those allies. Would be particularly good against Wolverine. I've found cards like this that exist already in the leadership sphere to just not be useful enough to run them. Even Strength in Numbers, which is pretty popular, I'm not a big fan of. I find it a little clunky to set up and use. I think it's not good quite as often as I hope it will be when I make the deck, and this card is probably similar. In the situation where you can make full use of it, it's good, but that situation just isn't going to occur that often. Toe-to-toe, we've seen before. Aggressive Energy. Max 2 per deck. When you spend this card to play an attack event, that event deals 1 additional damage. This isn't as good as the protection one that draws a card, not by a long shot. If you could use this twice, it gets better. It's not a bad card, it's just nothing special. I don't know that I would play this or not play this. It really depends. It strikes me as a bit of a placeholder. You're probably going to, if you have like 40 strong cards, you probably aren't going to find room for this the way you would the protection one. Because I value drawing a card far higher than I value dealing 1 additional damage on an attack event. So, yeah, this one seems pretty mediocre to me. It is a wild resource. I suppose it would need playtesting. It'll be just fine. It's not like a card you're going to see and regret that you have it. But it's also not going to be like a big play card or anything like that. So it seems like a middling tier card. And certainly not as good as its protection counterpart. We're into the basic cards. Colossus, 4-cost ally, 1 thwart, 3 attack. Reduce the cost to play Colossus by 1 if your identity has the Mutant or X-Men trait. Toughness. Do Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have the Mutant? Or I know they don't have X-Men because they're Avengers. Are they mutants? They are not. Well, I hope that gets changed somehow at some point, like with Warrior of the Great Web or something like that. Probably won't be, or if it does happen, it'll be in a slightly unsatisfying way, like with Warrior of the Great Web. Would have preferred a card that was set up and permanent that would give you the ability to choose the Web Warrior or Avenger trait for Spider-Man or Spider-Woman, and I would like that for Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch as well, the ability to choose the X-Men or the Avenger trait for them, but I doubt we'll get that. Anyway, Colossus, we get 3. Even if you're, so let's see. You can get 3, 6. Yeah, this is a good ally. With the toughness, he gives good value. Definitely would run him in an X-Men deck. Shadow Cat ally wasn't as high on, but the Colossus ally I like. He's good. Nothing exceptional, but he's good. Expansion, support alter ego action. Exhaust expansion, heal 1 damage from a mutant or X-Men character. Any player whose alter ego has the mutant trait may trigger this ability. This is a multiplayer focused card. We don't want to be in alter ego that much in solo, but like the card that generates a resource for an X-Men character, this card also is much more playable in a multiplayer game than in solo. Wouldn't run this in solo. In multiplayer it's much more interesting. I'm not sure. I might run this. Very team focused. But no thank you in solo. It costs too much and it's an alter ego action, which we're not really looking for in solo. Shadow and Steel we've gone over already. Ready to Rumble, 1-cost upgrade. After you change form, discard this card. Ready your hero. Not enough value from this generally, unless we're playing some kind of like combo deck where we really buff up our basic stats and then attack a bunch of times per round. Other than that, I don't value readying your hero that highly. I value it at like 2. So 1 cost plus using this card for just a ready isn't that good. And you have to change form to do it. That really isn't that good. Energy, Genius, and Strength. And is that it? Seems that's it. No additional aspect cards, so no leadership and no justice cards in this expansion box. We get 1 pretty lackluster hero in Colossus and 1 pretty good hero in Shadowcat. And we'll try them both out against the scenarios in Mutant Genesis and see how playable they are, the scenarios, and we'll see how playable the heroes are. So, thank you for watching.